Hello and welcome back to Mr. Haas's Math Help videos. Today I'd like to talk a little bit about equations. Equations are those math problems that have a variable, a coefficient, and a constant, and an equal sign, because equal is kind of like equation. So what we're trying to get to is where we have something like x equals 5. In other words, a variable equals a constant value. So we know exactly what the value of x is. Now, the way we do that is we use something called the opposite operations. Okay. And this means whatever operation it is that's in your way of getting to this point, you're going to use the opposite of that operation. Let me show you. So I'm going to start off with having x plus 3 equals 5. All right, so I've got a problem. I've got some numbers. I've got a constant over here on this side. I want all my constants over here on the right and my variable on the left. It doesn't always have to be that way. Variable can be over here and the constant over there. So the way we do this, again, is to use opposite operations. Here we have a plus. Well, the opposite of plus is minus. So you use the exact same number. That's going to get these to go away. Plus 3 and minus 3 is 0, leaving us x. Well, over on this side, you got to do the same thing because an equal, remember, is like a balance. You got to keep it the same on both sides. So if you take something away here, you've got to take something away here. You may have used the pawns and the number blocks. That's what we were doing there. So I did a minus 3 here. So I have to take 3 away from 5, and that's going to leave me 2. And there you see I've gotten to that goal of having a variable and a constant. X value is 2. Let's do a check quick. If I put this 2 in for x up here in my original equation, I have 2 plus 3 equals 5. Well, yeah, it works. Let's try another one. Let's try a different type. We're going to try x minus 7 equals 2. Okay. The operation that we've got going on here is negative. We have a negative 7. So opposite of negative is positive. So I'm going to use plus 7. Got to do it to both sides to keep it balanced, right? These 7s will go away, right? I'm going to have x left over here, and 2 and 7 is 9. Let's check it. I have 9 minus 7 equals 2. And yes, that does work. Okay, let's move on to something a little bit further. It showed that it can work with multiplication and division. Okay. So now, if I have something called a coefficient, you may remember this was one of our vocabulary words. That coefficient is that number that is multiplied by our variable. Sometimes, I'm putting in the multiply symbol to indicate that we have multiplication going on here. And I'm going to put 12 as a number. So here's my equation, 2x, and it can be written like this, 2x equals 12. In fact, that's the way you're going to see it. You're not going to see it with that little dot. It's kind of implied that that multiplication is going on there. But this is 2 times x. You have 2 times as many x's. Well, what operation? Multiplication. Opposite. The opposite of multiplication is division. So I'm going to divide both sides by 2. Here I have x, and that's what I wanted to get to, having 1, solving for 1. 12 divided by 2 is 6. Let's go back up here to our original, all right? I have 2 times 6 equals 12, and yes, that is correct. Let's try it for the fourth operation that we usually have. Let's go x divided by 2. Oh, and by the way, this can be written also. You could have 1/2 times x, right? That's the same thing as the x over 2. Why? Well, because 1/2 times x over 1. You can always put a number, a whole number or value over 1. It's the same thing. Cross multiply, right? 1 times x is x. 2 times 1 is 2. Notice it's the same thing. So we've got it over here. All right, so now we have a division problem. X divided by 2 is 4. All right. Division, opposite of division is multiplication. So you have to multiply, in this case, by whatever this denominator is, whatever you're getting divided by. So here's 2 times, got to do the same on both sides. This will cancel out, right? You can do this and look, it cancels out 2 times 2, right? I have X down here. 4 times 2 is 8. Let's go back to our original equation. I had X over 2 equals 4. I'm going to put in 8 over 2 equals 4. Yeah, 8 divided by 2 is 4. So that's how you do that. Now I'm going to tell you about a kind of a special one. How to straighten out a negative coefficient. Okay? So let's say we have a negative 3x equals 9. Well, what's been going on here is we have multiplied by negative 3. What can we do? We're going to divide by negative 3. I'm sorry, negative 3. Going to do it to both sides, right? These will cancel out. A negative divided by a negative is a positive, just like a negative times a negative is a positive. So here, we're going to get rid of these 3's. We've got an x. Here I have a positive, right? It isn't written, but we know that this is a positive 9. I have a negative 3. So a positive divided by a negative means my answer is going to be negative. 9 divided by 3 is 3. Okay. Let's try another one here. Oh, let's test it. Let's make sure everything's right. Negative 3 times negative 3 equals positive 9. A negative times a negative gives me a positive, right? 3 times 3 is 9, so it checks out. Let's try with a negative division problem. So let's go with our x over minus 4 equals 2. Oh, let's go crazy. I'm going to put a negative 2 in there. Is that okay? Sure. Why not? All right, what's going on here? The operation is division. I'm dividing by negative 4. What have I got to multiply by? I've got to multiply by negative 4. Opposite operation is multiply. The number is minus 4. Do the same thing over here, times a minus 4. You can put it in parentheses if that makes you feel better, right? So we got it like that. These are going to cancel out, right? We had 4 minus 4x, right? We end up with x. A negative times a negative is going to be a positive. 2 times 4 is 8. Okay, good. Let's check it. Our original equation was x over minus 4 equals minus 2. I put in my plus 8 minus 4 equals minus 2. Well, a positive divided by a negative is a negative. 8 divided by 4 is 2. So here's my negative 2. And that is exactly right. So that's how you handle a negative coefficient and get it to be finding that one x or whatever letter that variable is. Remember, you want to get to one of that variable no matter what it is. Works for decimals too. I'll show you that a little bit later. All right, see you in class. Bye.